And now from Gotham, please welcome Ben McKenzie, Donal, Logue, and Robin Lord Taylor. Guys. Welcome guys. Have a seat. It's a pleasure to see you. Wow. I think this is a show a lot of people are really looking forward to seeing for a lot of reasons. And I think that we all know the Batman story. We all think we know the Batman story, but this is completely different. This is really getting to know James Gordon.
It is, yeah. I think you put it well. We all know Batman. We think we know. And so we're going back in time to a period that's sort of, you know, you feel as though it's not quite the present,
right? And
yet you can't quite define exactly when it is because it's Gotham. Was that a nice dodge? And you're seeing characters that you believe you know, the audience believes they know. Certainly the hardcore fans of the Batman universe will immediately recognize, you know, Penguin, Harvey, James, Bruce, the young Catwoman, you know, Selena Kyle, the young Poison Ivy, Riddler. That's just the pilot.
Right.
You know, you're seeing all of these characters.
And who they are,
how they become, you know, the sort of the superheroes or the villains that you are familiar with, and why did they become them? What was the sort of the psychological motivation behind it? And sort of the meta story is Gotham is on the precipice of utter chaos. You know, it's spiraling downward, and the Wayne murders, you know, cycle it into a place where basically people put on masks to go out and commit crimes.
I have a million questions about this. I can keep you up here for 2 hours. I'm going to open it up to the floor, though, because I know we have a lot of questions about this. Go ahead, sir.
Is there a pressure when you play these characters that everybody knows, you know, like, oh, that's the Riddler, oh, that's Detective Gordon, like, is there a pressure that comes with that?
Yeah, there is. I think there's a responsibility to the fans to do it truthfully in whatever way. You know, I mean, look, we're all artists, and I include not only the cast, of course, but Bruno Heller, Danny Cannon, you know, production designer, our costume designer. I mean, every single person on the show, we really put together a killer team, great team, and we're competitive, and we want to do it well. And
competitive?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, we're all very competitive. Yeah.
Not with each other, but
No, yeah.
You know, the thing was, well, Gotham exists in the nomenclature. There's huge expectation. People feel very protective of this universe. The fans love it, and yet I think they'll be excited every time there's a new incarnation. There's an opportunity for us, for everyone individually, to make what they will of it. You know, there's a little bit. We've never seen Cobblepot when he was young. How did they get to that? That was what drew me to it. It was really exciting. And what I think Ben meant was too is that we're up for the challenge.
Yes.
Like we understand that there's that kind of level of scrutiny is awaiting us, but it's kind of it makes us stay on point a little bit.
Yeah, you either. I mean, I think you could pretend as though that pressure didn't exist, but
so yeah, we knew it. We felt it.
We felt it. We knew it, and we liked it.
Sort of follow up on that, the obligatory geek question. If each of you could answer, did you read comic books growing up, and did you have a favorite villain or hero?
I did read comic books growing up, and I mean, not to sound, I was always drawn to Batman. Batman was, I mean, we've said this a lot in various forums, but like, it's very relatable character because he is a man, he lives in the world, he doesn't have extra human powers. There's something about that, you know, I think every kid, you know, sees and can really identify with. And it seems like something that they could actually, like, as comic books go, it's almost attainable, you know, which is very rare in the comic book world.
I remember having a small Fantastic Four phase when I was young. You know, I wasn't as much of a comic book person. I loved American Splendor, which I thought was kind of a wild take on how to do a comic. But I've done a lot of comic book films, and over the years, and so I've become really familiar with the world. And I've also, we talked about this earlier, it was an opportunity for all of us to delve back into it it's always helpful to do research and get to know the world. Sometimes you don't want to know too much to kind of paint yourself into a corner, but yeah, we respect it. One thing about comic books that's important is that they were the most naturally translatable form of art into any cinematic kind of art, whether film or television. They're storyboards with dialogue.
And you know, shows like these, and shows like this, they're almost the new comic books. I mean, I think a lot of people who read comic books when they were younger wish there were shows like this on TV back then.
Well, and that's a great thing about television is that instead of a movie where you have to sort of adhere to like a 3-act structure and a 2-hour, 3-hour movie maybe, you know, now we're going to be able to spool out a series, much like you would a series of graphic novel comics, a series where you're going to get to know not only the characters in kind of like a 3-act structure, kind of rise, fall, rise kind of way, but you know, they can rise, they can fall, like you know, they could disappear.
There's a lot of development there.
Yeah, there is, and you may get the sense that you know the ending, right? Because you know that ultimately it manifests in Batman and all these great villains, but you don't know how they got there. So in that sense, it's kind of like a great Greek tragedy. You're interested in how they get there, or a noir. You know, you're interested in kind of like the chaos and how it comes down.
Ben, did you have a favorite comic growing up?
You know, honestly, kind of cribbing from Robin's answer, but I really did love Batman. Yeah, I really did. Yeah.
Well, what is it about Batman? It's gone from between Adam West and Christian Bale. There's a lot of room in there.
Yeah.
Batman seems to work on so many different levels. What is it about this character that can be interpreted in so many different ways and still be true to the character?
Well, I feel like the notion, I mean, a lot of the superhero mythology seems to be built on, you know, a young kid experiences trauma. And how does he deal with that trauma? In this case, it's the death of, in Bruce's case, the death of his parents. That's actually how Jim bonds with Bruce. In our story is Jim lost his father in a car accident when he was about Bruce's age. And so I think as a kid, this is my own truth. I mean, a lot of people have this theory, but I tend to agree with it, which is that, you know, as a young person, whether you're a man or a woman, you have a tendency to feel as though you don't know exactly what's going on. There's all these adults around you. You're not quite understood. You're a kid, but you're almost turning into a teenager. And there's a sense that you can feel maybe a little put upon. Most kids, thankfully, have not had to experience a true, deep, serious trauma, but there's a way to sort of, every kid feels a little like they can approximate that. And so what better way to sort of, to do what you wish you could do, which is to fight the bullies at school and get back, get justice in a world that you're starting to realize as a young person is not just. It's not a just world that we live in. It's not Gotham, thank God, but it's not just anyway.
Sure.
A lot of actors, you'll hear them say that on various shows they don't necessarily like to know where it's going. They like to, let the scenes in the episode sort of inform as it goes. This is a bit of a different thing, even though there are different versions of these characters. We know where it's going with a lot of these guys. Does that help or does that hurt? And especially, like, it's one thing to be the hero, but also to be a villain who grows up to be kind of maniacally evil. How do you play that when you're still young, and yet, it's got to be believable that it gets there, but you can't be that person yet, if you know what I mean. So that help or that hurt for any of us?
Well, Robin should answer that question, but the first question about, I think it's incredibly freeing. I think knowing, because all we really know is the end. I mean, we know, however long this series lasts, let's hope it's a long time, we know the last, as the executives at Fox have said, like the last shot of the last episode of the last season of the show, hopefully it's season 10 and not season 1, is Bruce as now a young man, putting on the cape, and he's Batman. But everything up to that, we don't know. How did he become the true Penguin? Not the adult, sort of criminal warlord mastermind. Not as Oswald starts and as Robin does such a wonderful job as the lowest guy in the totem pole, which is where we pick him up. So that's how I'm going to pass it over to you.
Right. Well, I would just say it's is this weird?
Yeah.
Okay. I would just say it's really exciting because like you said, we know where he ends up. As an actor, you want to be a character that goes on a crazy journey. You want to play the highest and the lowest. And for me, that's the most exciting thing about the characters, because we all know he ends up in super high status, but when we start, it's on the other end of the spectrum. He's at the lowest of the low. So for me, it's just I just want to know. I want to know how we get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it can't just be living in a sewer.
Yeah,
There's got to be more than that.
Well, it's that Greek tragedy that you want it to get better. You want, they're going to figure it out this time. And it's war, it's a tragedy. It's probably not going to end well. But it's still fascinating to watch.
Andrea.
Andrea King, CTV News. Primarily for Ben, but everyone is fussing. Ben, you've had success on a number of TV series before. You just said you love this to go for 10 years. What is it about television? What was it about this project that brought you back to TV? And I guess that's
well, it's almost a few television shows, just a few. He's done, I think, 6 in the last year alone. And this was very attractive because I think Gotham is actually a really good example of why TV is such a great medium, particularly at this moment. It's kind of, I really do think it's kind of the golden age.
I was just about to say that. A lot of people call this the golden age.
Because you can do long form narrative. You can do character-based drama. This is huge. I mean, you couldn't pick a bigger canvas on which to paint. I mean, Batman, DC Universe, all of this stuff. And yet we're doing a character-based drama. And yet at the end of the day, we're doing a character-based drama that is heavily serialized. That will have, some procedural element, like a case kind of, but it will always tie into the larger theme of whatever's going on. It's heavily serialized. We're not resetting every episode. And so, as an actor, you get to embrace a character. You get to,
Spend a lot of time.
Spend time. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I thought Gotham to me, because obviously Gotham exists in nomenclature, it's a powerful word, but since the Industrial Revolution or whatever, the urbanization of the planet, Gotham comes to represent the human animal living in close quarters with each other. What I always think makes, for the same with the villain or this, that there's kind of like a Jungian way to look at this world. That's what makes it so deep. It's either like traumas that happen when you're young or what motivates these characters. Always the most interesting thing is when people make generalizations about anyone that you might meet in life, it's like, no, the fact that they went to that school didn't determine who they were as much as the fact that their father was an abusive alcoholic that they had to come home and deal with. It's the human stuff, and that's what I thought, that's what drew me to Gotham so much, and certainly in talking with Bruno and Danny, and then the cast that started to get assembled, but it was like, what a fantastic kind of palette to have to jump on this and to paint this new kind of version of Gotham with. And so it's the most exciting form. As an actor or as a writer, there's nothing better than you get, every time you do an episode of something, if it's Vikings or Sons of Anarchy, it doesn't matter. Like you could, the writer for Vikings, Michael Hirsch, lived down the street from me when we were doing it, and he goes, I've just made up my mind about episode 8. And you're like, this thing is growing and changing as you're making it.
Right.
And it'll inform itself while it's in stride. And that's what a movie, you're set. You gotta do it. You do this 90-minute arc. You do a scene, you're like, I'll never have a chance to get redemption. I blew that one or whatever. You always feel like there's a new opportunity with this form of art, this 1-hour television stuff. So.
Absolutely. I think we've got another question over here, sir.
Hi. How familiar are these cats with the animated adaptation of Batman that aired on Fox in 1992, briefly in prime time, and with the DC animated universe, and because this is the first major appearance for the Batman family on Fox since 1992.
We were talking about, my kids used to watch it in the car driving to Oregon all the time. So I heard Harvey Bullock, right, like playing behind me as I was driving, and it was funny because it's so iconic in that animated series that was an immediate choice. Was like,
funny how that works.
He did that. I'm not doing that. Someone else did that, and so. But I had seen it. It was actually quite good too.
I'm not familiar with I'm not familiar. I've never watched it because I was, I didn't watch it when I was younger. So
But I mean, you talk about a cartoon element in the 90s. We were talking about this with Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. You couldn't do a show like this even 5 to 6 years ago.
No.
You could not do it. You would have to do it in comic form or in a cartoon form. It would have been the only way to do it. Hence, when we talk about the golden age of television.
honestly think that network television owes cable television a tip of the hat, because cable has pushed network to say, yeah, we not only can we do it, but we have to do it.
Yeah.
We have to put real money behind it, and we have to really, promote it. It's like, Walking Dead is a great show that is, watched by a ton of people. You can make a show that's maybe, I understand there's sort of the FCC portion of the kind of the network versus cable in terms of what you can, right, CRTC, what you can do, but increasingly I think, that's what's brilliant about this, from my mind, is we're setting it at a time period where, and the tone is sort of noirish, so the violence is realistic, and yet a lot of it happens not, raised knife, terrified.
You're showing everything you need to show with that action show.
Blood on the rock, kind of a feel. So it's both, it gets your adrenaline rushing in a way that is not at all campy, that is sort of miles away from, Adam West Batman, which I love as a kid.
I love the Adam West Batman.
Yeah, I watched it in the afternoon with my brother.
Yeah, I wanted a bat pole in my house, so I could go down with the case. Question?
Yeah, it's a question for Mr. Logue. I'm writing for Parenting Magazine, so it's a parent. You've done a lot of charity work, like with very little fanfare, for donating stem cells. And children today face so many technological distractions. So what do you do, or can any parent do, to cultivate interest for them to give to others with philanthropic work, because you've done so much?
That's a great question. And it's fascinating. My twin sister has 2 daughters. I have 2 sons, relatively the same age. She teaches at a Waldorf school. So my nieces don't listen to music unless it's actually acoustically performed live. They don't watch television. They watch 1 hour a week. My kids, as I said, driving to Oregon, are watching the Batman cartoon. But they're great. They're all great kids, and they all have good hearts, and they're very similar. But I do think it's my parents were. I was born here. My parents were Irish immigrants, really hardworking people, and they honestly were never didactic about anything in life, other than I remember as a kid going, "Oh, my dad pulled over to help that person change their tire." They gave people rides, they let people stay at the house. And I think my kids, my son actually said that the other day, I think it was about the stem cell donation, because it was a conversation. His friend's father has cancer. And he goes, "Oh yeah, Dad, you did that thing for someone with cancer." And he goes, "That's cool, Dad." And I think the only thing you can do is just live your life, not even without even thinking about it, just as a, they watch your example. I read because my parents read, not because they told me to read as a child, And Ben and I were talking about this with this show, which was really exciting. We did this show called Terriers at FX, and we had a Make-A-Wish Foundation person. But the thing was, I've never been on a show that had this kind of Bat Kid element to it, where all these kids and stuff might really want, like, how exciting is it that once this thing gets in motion, we could probably do stuff like, for Make-A-Wish, come on, be part of Gotham, and I'm sure the producers would be. That's actually kind of something that's really exciting about being involved in DC and comic universe, is that an opportunity to maybe do some fun, good stuff with this platform we've been lucky enough to have.
We've got another question, sir.
Well, we referenced it before, but are you really trying to be in everything? Because, and did it ultimately just because of what happened on Vikings, did something open up on your schedule based on what happened to your character?
On Vikings? Oh, certain Gotham happened because because of Vikings. It was interesting because on Copper, Sons of Anarchy, and Vikings, it was all anticipated that I would come in on these arcs that would. And just like Robin says about playing the villain, there's nothing more fun than playing a villainous character who gets brutally murdered. It's a special way to go out.
Yeah.
You didn't get transferred to Cleveland. And so I've been the most blessed, luckiest person to be on in these different worlds. And but now the Gotham train's leaving the station, and it's hopefully a longer journey than that, but it's been exciting to be able to be part of all those different television worlds.
I categorize it more as a rocket ship about to take off. Buckle up, guys.
No, yeah, we're feeling a little bit of that pre-flight countdown thing. I didn't see it. It's a little nerve-wracking, I get.
Strap yourselves in, guys. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here.
Thank
The
you
cast
so
of
much.
Gotham, everyone.